Hi, my name is Dina Muscat Meng from Cochrane Denmark and Cochrane Sustainable Healthcare, and I'll be talking about the dissemination checklist and why it was created. In this presentation, I will be talking about the background and aim of the dissemination checklist. At Cochrane, we define knowledge translation as the process of supporting the use of health evidence from our high-quality, trusted Cochrane systematic reviews by those who need it to make health decisions. Our primary target audiences are consumers and the public, healthcare practitioners, policymakers and healthcare managers, and researchers and research funders. The dissemination checklist is part of a larger knowledge translation initiative in Cochrane. In our Cochrane strategy, it is placed under the packaging, push, and support implementation. It is a key strategy under our goal of making our evidence accessible. At Cochrane, we use a lot of different ways to present our evidence. Some examples of how we do this is through press releases, social media, plain language summaries, and podcasts. We also write for a number of journals. We package our evidence in a lot of different formats and in many different languages. Regardless of product type, media, or audience, we aim to provide a reasonable representation of the evidence with information that is sufficiently complete, nuanced, and unbiased. In addition, we should also aim to provide a good user experience with information that is easy to find and understand, that is useful and credible, and that is desirable and non-alienating. We want our user to read whatever communication product we have made and feel that it's for them. With the broad range of dissemination products we make, there are many that achieve these goals. But there is also some room for improvement. How might we further improve quality and consistency when communicating about our Cochrane reviews? Regardless of product type, media, and language, and considering the people creating these products with very different skill sets, time, and resources. So the checklist is a tool for anyone preparing a dissemination product based on a Cochrane intervention review. It aims to improve the quality and consistency of dissemination products that present the findings of Cochrane intervention reviews. And it aims to improve communication with non-experts. Cochrane Norway led the work on the project to create a dissemination checklist with support by an advisory group with representatives from across Cochrane. A literature search and framework analysis was conducted, followed by several cycles of feedback from both the advisory group and through user testing, before the final version was approved in 2019. The checklist is in a structure of 3 layers. There is a 1-page overview at the top, which mainly serves as a reminder. We then have a 7-page version with more detail, and this will probably be the version that most people will use. Finally, we have a full set of guidance, which has examples and references. To sum up what the checklist is and isn't, it is a resource to ensure a consistent way of communicating about findings from Cochrane intervention reviews. But most items are relevant for other types of reviews and research. It's for products that present findings, as opposed to just building awareness about a review. And the checklist helps you improve your dissemination to non-experts. These can be people who are not familiar with systematic review methodology. It's for creating both individual product content and templates. And the checklist should be understood as a set of minimum requirements, but it's not a recipe or a magic bullet. There are 2 main goals in our knowledge translation work: to provide a reasonable representation of the evidence and to provide a good user experience. But there are also a number of potential inherent tensions with this. Users of our evidence may expect recommendations, but it's important that we do not give recommendations. We are often challenged to be precise with information that is complex and nuanced, and our users may expect simplicity. We need to be transparent when communicating our findings, but we risk exposing our users to information overload. The certainty of the evidence is an important part of what we communicate about, but our users may struggle with interpreting the uncertainties. Knowledge translators are balancing in the middle with all these considerations, creating solutions that can negotiate these tensions. Our aim with this checklist is to support you with this task.
Hi, my name is Sarah Rosenbaum from Cochrane, Norway. I'm going to talk a bit about expert and non-expert target audiences. As Dina already described, Cochrane has defined 4 primary target audiences: consumers in the public, healthcare practitioners, policymakers and healthcare managers, and researchers and research funders. These are often thought of as distinct groups. And we may tend to think of these 3 groups, healthcare professionals, policymakers, and researchers, as the experts. But in fact, when it comes to understanding evidence from systematic reviews, most people who are not researchers do not have a lot of expert knowledge in this area and should be thought of as non-experts. The experts in this context, understanding information from systematic reviews, are people who know a lot about review methodology. This may include many of you, which is helpful to be aware of. But it doesn't automatically include people in the other groups. It doesn't even automatically include people in other areas of research. There are researchers who study experts and expertise, and some of their work is relevant for us working in dissemination, particularly what we can learn about typical differences between experts and non-experts when it comes to understanding information. One of the most obvious differences is that experts have a lot more knowledge within their domain of expertise. Non-experts are either lacking knowledge or what they know may be incorrect. For instance, they may not be familiar with terms like PICO or confidence interval, or even words that might sound more common like outcome or intervention. They're more likely to lack an understanding of some basic concepts like what a systematic review is, as opposed to a single study, or what uncertainty means in this context, and why we would report it. Non-experts also typically lack knowledge about review aims and methods, and this can have an impact on their understanding of things like why reviews take so long to do, or why other types of evidence aren't included, or why recommendations can't be given. They may not understand that the dissemination product is produced by different people than the review, or that the review authors are not the same researchers who conducted included studies. These kinds of knowledge differences are the reasons that we stress using plain language and presenting findings and uncertainty of the evidence in ways people can easily understand, as well as making authorship issues clear. We cover all these topics in other videos in this series. Another difference is that non-experts aren't so good at detecting patterns in a lot of poorly structured information, in part because they don't know what they're looking for. But they also lack conceptual categories that can help them chunk information into fewer segments. For this reason, they process information much more slowly, and they can get more easily overwhelmed by a lot of information. We call this cognitive overload. Creating a clear structure of information can help mitigate cognitive overload, and we talk about ways you can do that in video number 7. Despite the challenges that they share, there's still a lot of important differences across and within non-expert groups related to their information needs and use. That's why it's important to know something about your target audience when you think about things like what kind of information is likely to be important to them, how much detail they want or need, or what kind of language they're familiar with. We talk more about the importance of understanding your target audience in video number 3. More generally, it's clear that non-experts need more help than experts to find and understand evidence from systematic reviews, so we created the dissemination checklist with the particular needs of non-experts in mind. It's easy to forget just how expert we become ourselves and how that differs from what other people may know, the people we're trying to communicate with. Using this checklist can help you remember. This video is one of a series of videos that are based on the Cochrane Dissemination Checklist. The easiest way to find the checklist is to search for it online. Thanks for watching.